What inspired you to take part in the Rekindle Fellowship?
Our work on campus is all about building bridges for our students in different areas, and I felt like I should do that for myself as well. I live in Baltimore City. I live in a very mixed neighborhood. I actually live in a predominantly black neighborhood, and so thinking about these relationships and working on these relationships.
What do you think you've taken, I think, from the fellowship in regards to like the area you physically live in, like your home, the place you consider home?
One of my takeaways was also like just how busy I am
Yeah.
and how much time building real relationship actually takes.
Sure.
What about you? How did you end up there?
I was 5 years in Baltimore last week. And so this year has been the first year, I think for me, I've been super intentional. I need to be more ingratiated in Baltimore. I have heard memories of the dynamic between the Black and Jewish community, and I wanted to immerse myself in a way to actually find a little bit more about that, right? Another thing similar to you, when we think about the students that we work with and that we serve, I mean, walk what you talk.
Otherwise, why are they going to listen to you?
Rekindle was also this space for me to continue to challenge myself, but also model what I want students to be willing to engage in and do and open themselves up to. So I think there's much more work to do, though. You don't leave Rekindle feeling like we've solved the problem.
It's like it's going to be a lifetime of, I don't want to call it work, but a lifetime of work, a lifetime of engagement, and a lifetime of being in community.
Yeah.
There's no way to like say, okay, well, I've achieved it and it's done now. It's not ever done. We talked about this in one of the sessions, talking about like the civil rights movement and the role the Jewish parts of the Jewish community played in the civil rights movement.
Sure, yeah.
Is like an important part of our narrative.
Yeah.
And it was very eye-opening to me to understand the ways that like, just because something is like central to my story and like it touches your story, doesn't mean it's central to your story in the same way.
I'm also a person who goes to museums and all the things. So like history is of importance to me, and I've been intentional about wanting to learn more about Baltimore history, right? So I think it's there. I didn't grow up here to get the full story of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Looking back, what assumptions or preconceptions did you enter the fellowship with, and how did this experience reshape them?
I think either the first or second session, we talked about those stereotypes that we come in with. There's this sound that kind of echoes, I think, in the community, the Black community, at least in my experience. There's a lot of trauma comparison that happens.
Yeah.
And so there's, although not direct resentment, if I had to give a word to it, there's this question, there's this curiosity, there's the, well, people care about the Holocaust, but why do they not care about the things that are happening right now? Once we got to the fellowship, I was more so willing to learn, especially when we're thinking about the Baltimore context, but I would say those are things that were a part of my previous understanding, I think, of the dynamic between the Black and Jewish community.
I think I had a lot less of like the current context in my brain around like the comparisons of what exists now and what the struggles are now, right? Then in the past few years, the Jewish community has been very, I'd say, inwardly focused about our own struggles and our own worries. And I think that there's less in my own experience, like a lot less of like looking around and seeing like, what are those points of comparison? What are those points of similarity? What are the points of difference? Like, there was this one session in the middle of it where we like got into some really, really deep questions. We'd built enough trust, and finally, like, it was time for us to have those hard conversations. If I don't know you, I can't actually like bare my soul to you and talk to you about like the things that I'm worrying about. I have to know you first. And so there was a lot more groundwork required than I think I fully realized.
You're not the only person I've heard that from. Right. What object did you share that is representative of your culture and your family's history and or your religious traditions?
How convenient that I am currently wearing it right now, right? So I shared this Jewish star that I wear, and I started after October 7th. A lot of my students started wearing much more visible representations of their Judaism. This one I bought when I was studying abroad in Egypt from one of the last remaining members of the Egyptian Jewish community. You know, and it's a reminder of the diversity of the Jewish world, and it's a reminder of a really pivotal moment in my life. That semester was like so transformative in ways also that I didn't expect. I went in expecting it to take me in one direction. It really pushed me in a couple of others. What about you? I actually don't remember what you brought.
This has been an interesting conversation because I think Darius had brought up, like, we don't have artifacts. So I brought my church fan.
Mm.
That was from,
oh, yes.
That was from the Reginald F. Lewis Museum in Baltimore. Mainly because of, one, my Southern identity, but two, I think for me, it represents community inadvertently, right? I think I mentioned typically church fans in the South are like either almost always the funeral home, but like
advertisements on the fan, right?
of like Black businesses in the area, right? And so I think for me it symbolized
smart for everyone.
Yeah, honestly, right? Everybody goes to church.
Everybody goes to church.
You put,
and it's gonna be hot.
And it's gonna be hot. I struggled with that project, and I think Darius's comment of like the way that our Jewish counterparts had artifacts, the way that we don't necessarily have them. I mean, depending on the family you come from, obviously, but we created symbolism based upon the experiences that meant the most to us.
And I got to tell you, like what he said, like what Darius shared about there being a lack of like deep history, or like, and things were taken away, like any sort of history and connection and artifact was specifically and intentionally stripped from your community. Has really, like, that's one of the things that has stuck with me the most. If you could travel or take a field trip anywhere to better understand the other's experiences or heritage, where would it be?
It was very unique and beautiful to hear how many of you all went to Israel before. And as someone who identifies as a Christian, I do think that trip, like, that is a place for me that I would love to explore, not only from a Christianity lens, but now I feel like if I ever went, I'd have so much more context and understanding of symbolisms if I went. I think so many of the trips that I heard that went to Israel, I think it definitely would be a place that I would like to go to.
Sort of makes my answer feel like sadder in some real way.
No, tell me.
To do like a trip to the South, like a civil rights trail. Like I want to do all of that.
We talked about it.
Yeah.
At one of the Rise groups, we did.
But I don't want to just be looking backwards and looking back at like the struggles. Like I want something uplifting. I think a civil rights trail trip could be uplifting.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of times American culture wants us to tell us to forget it. And I think those museums, whether you're talking about in Atlanta or the Lynching Museum, which I'm a very big fan of in Alabama, it tells us like, one, no, some of these things are still happening. I think the good thing is if now that you've done Rekindle, you go back with a new lens of like, okay, how do I have this community already, right? Rather than going to visit a museum to learn, which is fine. But like you now have not just cohort 1, but cohort 2.
Like how do we see each other more frequently, and not just in passing, but like how do we like actually see each other and engage with each other more frequently? Because if I'm living here and you're living there, like I might pass you on a street, and maybe if I'm feeling particularly warm and friendly, I might even say good morning to you. But like if I'm just passing you on the street, like that doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't build anything. It's that deep connection and over time relationship that has to happen.
I think being in each other's spaces, understanding each other's culture, each other's humanity, because we talked a lot about how diverse even the Jewish community is, which was an eye-opener for me. And obviously the conversation continues.
There's something special about the fact that like you and I are both at Towson. So we had 2 weeks ago, we had that transfer orientation where I look up and sitting at the table right next to me, there you were.
Literally.
It's like,
literally.
This is great. This is a relationship that is going to be very easy, and easy is important sometimes.
Absolutely.
Easy for us to carry forward. I'm going to naturally see you around in my life now. And I'm
going to keep you accountable.
Yeah, keep me accountable for sure. It is so hard sometimes to make the space, and so finding ways for the space to happen organically, continue that forward. So I appreciate also like that I started my coffee dates with you, and we get to end this in this way.
With our water tea date.